Can you say friends, talking, nerdy? Close enough.
If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I want to talk to you. Friends talking nerdy.
Have you ever held a cat in your hands and had it look at you, and the look was telling you specifically, you know, the moment you put me down, I'm going to go do the thing you do not want me to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That was our dear Annie, one of the feline mascots here at Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim the Nerd, and seated next to me we have Professor Aubrey, relaxing at the midway point of the week as we record this.
That's right. It's Wednesday.
That's right.
Hump Day. We used to do a Hump Day show.
That we did back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yep. When the pandemic gave people a lot more time on their hands.
Seriously, when you think back about it, we really did have a lot of time at home.
Yeah, and we ended up making a lot of episodes during that period. And one reason I'm glad we had that period too was that it kind of made up for that those few months that I did not do the show in late 2018, early 2019. So it's roughly around where it would have been if I had stayed consistent each and every week since I first started doing it.
I see.
Yeah. So pat on my back.
Yes, yes.
Yes, but this week we are going to be honoring the legacy of a Hollywood icon, which is something that's thrown around too much lately. The word icon, like everybody's an icon now, and if everybody's an icon, who really is an icon, right? But the way I define it, at least when it comes to someone in Hollywood, is their acting helped make movies better, not only just overall quality, but made it to where maybe there were important things that they did that made the experience better for someone down the road from them.
Mm-hmm.
Also having, movies that stand the test of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think one person that kind of exemplified that is someone who recently passed away as we record this, the legendary Robert Redford.
Yes. Very sadly, Robert Redford has passed away.
Yes, I believe he was in his late 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that's right. Yep.
Yeah,
Good long time.
Yeah. I mean, as we've discussed previously on the show, like in general, if you think about it, I think it is a general consensus thing that if you hear news of somebody who's reached the age of like 97 and died peacefully in the night,
Mm-hmm.
you're not necessarily like weeping your eyes out. In a way, if you knew the person, yeah, there's going to be sadness involved. I'm not saying that, but in a way, there are times to where you're just glad that people reach the end of their journey, in the sense that they can rest now, not like, oh God, good riddance, not saying that. One thing we like to do when we do have legends like him pass away is kind of do a little retrospective, talk about some of their important work, discuss our thoughts on it, even if we may not have seen it, because even though we may not have seen it, there are plenty of films that I've not seen personally, but that I know the general premise of, or the general story, and can speak somewhat on. And again, when we're talking about Robert Redford, like he did kind of open the doors in a lot of ways for how actors can do their job in Hollywood today.
What do you mean?
In terms of breaking open, I guess, the types of roles that people could explore, because even though Robert Redford did have that stereotypical, Hollywood good guy look, even till his last days, he did take on a number of roles that in a lot of ways were challenging and not as easy of a choice as him being past the script of like numerous romantic comedies, for example.
Mm-hmm.
He challenged himself, and by challenging himself, he made the movies better. By making the movies better, he made it to where someone in the future wanted to jump that bar that they set.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. So
He never really did, too much as a romantic comedy. Maybe early on.
Yeah, I seem to remember early on, like off the top of my head, I'm not, the name is not coming to mind, but, I think
I mean, there was Bridges in Madison County.
that was Clint Eastwood.
Oh, shit.
Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep, yeah.
Oh, I was picturing Robert Redford in it the whole time.
No, yeah.
Okay, well, so things that Robert Redford was in.
Well, we will be discussing some of them, but before we start, though, I wanted to ask, do you have a general first impression or first idea of seeing something related to Robert Redford? If you do have a specific day, great. Doubt you do. I know I don't. But what do you seem to recall from him first?
I think probably Jeremiah Johnson, because people in my family really liked it, so I was exposed to it when I was pretty young, and it was a revolutionary film. The score is amazing. His acting is amazing. But, I also liked movies like The Horse Whisperer, where he had to learn a new skill or something in order to be in that movie.
I didn't watch that movie. You know.
I like horses.
Well, there you go. Horsey.
And Robert Redford. So it was a win.
There you go. Yeah, you can ride side saddle with him on a horse and go right off into the sunset, right? For me, I do seem to call seeing like commercials, or maybe it was an episode of Siskel and Ebert discussing one of his mid '80s films, and the one that it was is one that we're going to be talking about on the list. So I could talk about it a little more in depth later, but at the time as a kid, I did kind of not get him at first. I thought his abilities as I saw it at that time were overblown, but the older I got and the more interested in film I got in terms of actually exploring film history and different older films and stuff like that, once I saw what he really could truly offer as an actor, is like, I get it now. But at the time, I didn't. But I also didn't realize until later that he actually ended up getting his first big break on television in The Twilight Zone.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it just one episode?
I believe he did 3 of them, if I'm not mistaken. If not 3, 2, but multiple episodes. The most famous one was where he played Death. And it was, you can obviously see what Rod Serling's reasoning for hiring Redford was to play Death, the juxtaposition of, something so cold and final compared to Robert Redford, strapping young man,
Mm-hmm. Blonde.
Yes, quite blonde.
Tall.
Yeah, apparently him and William Shatner early in their careers were essentially neck and neck in terms of the types of parts they were being offered. Obviously Robert Redford went on to have quite the career, as did William Shatner, but in a much different way than I'm sure he would have wanted.
Shatner?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think
he probably would have rather have been Robert Redford.
Basically, yeah, not in the sense of, he wanted. I guess what I meant is that, yeah, he wanted that career. He wanted to do the serious acting, be known for the serious roles, get the best actor Oscar and stuff like that. At the end of the day, I think he would be the first to tell you that he still loves a paycheck. So I don't think at his age, at this point in his life, it's that big of a deal anymore. But I could see how it could chap someone's ass if you had a contemporary that went on to do much, much bigger things, and you're like, I knew that guy when they bummed gas money from me one time,
Right.
I've
never had that happen.
Now that was the perfect time to say, I went to grade school with Ketanji Jackson Brown.
Right. Yeah, and then history will look back upon us, and I'll be the William Shatner of the pair.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
but at least you could have had a chance to host the Family Feud. That was actually the Family Feud was created with the intention of giving it to William Shatner as the host. Because you got to remember, in the 70s, Star Trek was not a thing. The movies weren't put into production until the late 70s. A majority of William Shatner's income came from being on game shows. And when he was on game shows, it was stuff like the match game. So, he could just turn on the Shatner charm and win everybody over. And that almost got him Family Feud. But I think time-wise, if I'm not mistaken, I think there were already rumblings that it, about something that Paramount Pictures was doing. They were initially going to create a new television network, a fourth television network in the 70s. That did not come into pass thanks to a little movie called Star Wars, because the television network they wanted to have a new show, a new Star Trek show. We're going to call it Star Trek Phase 2. But then when Star Wars became a big hit, Paramount said, we got a movie here. So they took the pilot, essentially, of that show and ended up broadening it and making it into a movie. So it was around that time. That's why he ultimately did not ultimately take the Family Feud hosting gig. But think of the alternate universe where William Shatner spent many years kissing ladies on the cheek.
Mm-hmm. It would have been great.
Yeah. Anyway. But enough about William Shatner. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's just interesting to think about the different paths. But how about you? Same question. When did you notice? Did you say?
I just answered it, yeah. In the 80s. In the 80s, but, once we get to the movie in question that is on our list that we're going to be discussing, then, yeah, I can go into a little deeper.
Okay, so you're not even going to tell us which movie it was.
We'll get to that point. Suspense. This is how we keep our friends at home listening.
Next, then?
We're going to start the list.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Have you ever heard of a movie called Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
I think I have.
Yes. Absolute classic movie. If you go to IMDb, the tagline for this movie is: in 1890s Wyoming, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid lead a band of outlaws. When a train robbery goes wrong, they find themselves on a run with a posse hard on their heels. I think that tagline itself doesn't necessarily give the film justice, because it makes it sound too much of a cliched Western, and this is really not. I mean, it was a modern for the time take on the Western. It really different in a lot of ways. I mean, John Wayne could not have starred in that movie. About a little bit of trivia before we talk about it, if we want.
Yeah.
All right. Robert Redford was initially offered the role of Butch, but he pushed to play Sundance instead, the role that made him a star. Paul Newman backed him, and studio execs were skeptical, and Paul Newman, of course, ended up becoming Butch Cassidy. The famous cliff jump was done by stuntmen, but Redford actually wanted to do it himself. The studio flatly refused. Like a lot of actors, he at the time did try to push to do as much of his stunts as he could, but I can see why a studio would say, yeah, maybe you don't need to jump a cliff. Yeah. And Robert Redford was so bonded to the role that he later named his Utah Film Festival Sundance. And
isn't that sweet?
Yeah. I think his ultimate legacy is going to be the Sundance Film Festival. At least in our era, in terms of the 80s and 90s, in terms of the types of movies that it made. But that's when cinema was in a different place. I mean, now these days, most movie theaters around the country are going to be corporate-run movie theaters, and they're not going to show an independent film. They just rather have as many studios open for whatever superhero movies out there.
Yeah.
And independent film a lot of good stuff is still being made, but you're going to see it more on TV, if anything else. But without Sundance Film Festival, like We wouldn't have Kevin Smith in the Clerks universe. We wouldn't have Quentin Tarantino with all of his films. We wouldn't have Robert Rodriguez with the Mariachi trilogy. The first movie was an independent film and was at Sundance. I mean, a lot of Steven Soderbergh, Sex, Lies, and Videotapes. Sundance Film Festival. That right there is quite the legacy.
Yeah, and it has its own channel, the Sundance channel.
Yes.
And they show independent movies.
Kind of like the independent film channel back in the day. But now if it's...
The IFC?
Yeah, the IFC. I don't know if it's still on the air, but the last time I checked, it looked like they were, playing lots of infomercials as well as sitcom reruns.
Too bad.
Yeah. But Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Loved it when I first saw it. Great soundtrack. B.J. Thomas with Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. I think back to that scene in question. That's where Paul Newman and Catherine Ross, the female lead in the movie, are just riding around on a bicycle being silly friends. And, that song is playing in the background. Fits perfectly. It was also one of Cloris Leachman's first roles.
Really?
She played one of the prostitutes at the brothel near the beginning of the film. It was a scene where Butch and Sundance actually learned their real names because they were criminals. They didn't necessarily want to know that much about each other. Kind of makes sense, but it was a great scene.
Yeah, Cloris Leachman is great.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea that she was that old, honestly.
Yeah, I believe she's no longer with us, sadly. I believe she did pass away like in her 80s or 90s or something like that. So nice long life. I first remember her from The Facts of Life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My mother religiously watched that show for multiple years. When I first saw George Clooney, too.
Really?
He was on that show.
Yeah, I used to watch that show. Anyway, let's talk about Robert Redford.
All right. Who loves a good tangent, people? But anyway, any other thoughts on Butch and Sundance?
Not really. I have vague memories of it, honestly.
Yeah. Absolute classic ending. Kind of leaves it open in the air because it's, they're psyching themselves up. They're both on either side of an open doorway talking to each other. And then 1, 2, and then they both run out, start shooting, and then freeze frame, and the movie ends. You don't know if they live or died.
Yeah, I definitely have seen it.
Yeah. But yeah, if you get a chance to see it, definitely do so. It's one of those films too that I think is, I don't think I've thought about it in terms of that bucket list before, but I definitely do now. Of movies I want to see on the big screen, and so that means keeping an eye out on the Hollywood theater.
Oh yeah, and Cinema 21 and Cinemagic.
Lots of good places in town, but how about we talk about another film of his?
Yeah.
The Sting.
This is a good one. I do remember seeing this one on HBO.
Yes, I saw it on a VHS.
Oh, hey.
That year's old. Tagline for this film: 2 grifters team up to pull off the ultimate con.
I love a good con movie.
Yeah, I will say that in the end, it did kind of get me too, because it was looking like that the Newman and Redford characters at the end were really not liking each other. But I didn't get until the very end, like, oh, they were fooling us too, as well as the cop in question. Oh, I get it now. But yeah, how about, before I talk any more about the film, we talk about a couple bits of trivia.
Okay.
All right. Redford was the only actor nominated for an Oscar from the film, Best Actor, but he lost to Jack Lemmon in Save the Tiger.
Whoa, and how much do we know Jack Lemmon in Save the Tiger?
It's probably on some public domain,
But you know what I'm saying? Who's heard of that film?
Yeah, just like how many people have watched the Best Picture winner, Crash, from 1996,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Sex, Lies, and Videotape, I have watched.
I read the script.
Really? You never saw it?
Yeah, I never... I would not like it. I know that much, but I do like Steven Soderbergh as a director. He's gone on to do some really good stuff.
But why do you think you wouldn't like it?
Why do I think I wouldn't like it? Well, I mean, if I'm bored with reading the script, I'm not generally gonna like that type of movie. It's probably
Okay.
just too much talking,
Too much talking, yep.
too much talking, but also
All it
people.
is talking.
Yeah, it was with the sex. You expect a little more of that. No, it's people. When that movie came out, these were people who I really couldn't relate to. I was a young kid, late '80s. So maybe it's certainly possible that if I gave it a try again today, being older, maybe there was things I could relate to that I couldn't relate to at the time. Because again, I got no problem saying Steven Soderbergh has made some great films. Out of Sight, Ocean's 11, the remake of that. And who would have thought you can make a remake of an old Frank Sinatra film and turn it into, one of the best heist films of the 21st century?
Yeah, who would have thought?
Yeah. But the music, too, if I remember correctly, they used a lot of classic Scott Joplin songs.
Yes.
Yeah, from the 20s.
Yes. And they wore, like knickers.
Oh, yeah.
They had cute costumes and Argyle sweaters.
Yeah, I mean, you expected one to have like a toothpick in your hand.
Yeah.
Talk like that. But for me, overall, it's like it's a good film, but it's also a film that it's not rewatchable for me because it's like once you get what's going on, you get the story. It's like maybe some people could argue that you want to go back and see how they did it, dig a little deeper into how they did it. But for me, it's just like, oh, that's it. Okay, cool. Story's done.
Hmm.
So for me, it doesn't have much rewatchability. But how about you? Like if it were on, would you watch it?
Oh, definitely. I would watch it. I don't remember the intricacies of it because I saw it when I was a child. So I think it'd be worth saying again.
Yeah, and to be clear, I said the last time I saw it was when I saw it on VHS. So that's at least 20 years here, if maybe 25 more like oof. Count the receding hairline, Tim. But maybe it could be one of those situations to where if I watched it again today, I could probably have a different opinion.
Hmm.
But I'm also not that motivated to go looking for that film to watch it again. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But there is one of his films that I would definitely watch again. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
All the President's Men,
Hey.
the movie version of Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein's book about their involvement in reporting the Watergate scandal in the early 70s. I've made no secret that, growing up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, like this time period in American history is, on display at the Gerald R. Ford Museum when you
Yeah.
go and see all the visits. So, I've definitely been interested in this subject for a long time, loved seeing the film. If I do remember correctly, like I believe Gerald Ford or somebody close to him did come out and say, like, that along with the pardon and along with a disastrous debate performance against Carter, to where he made a verbal gaffe and didn't have a chance to correct himself or something like that, ended up losing him the election.
Yeah. Well, and he was just so clumsy, don't you think?
I think a lot of that, the clumsy aspect, I think a lot of that did come from Saturday Night Live and Chevy Chase, yeah. But to his credit, and I say this with him being a Republican at the time, to his credit, he knew how to take a joke. He actually he didn't go on Saturday Night Live, but he at one point did have his press secretary Ron Nessen ended up hosting an early episode of Saturday Night Live, and Ford did a little video at the start of that episode.
Oh, what is that?
I forgot the specifics, but I think it may have been, and again, I'm just thinking back here, so I could be wrong on this, but it may have been Ford saying live from New York at Saturday night.
Oh, nice.
But yeah. How about a couple bits of trivia, and then we'll talk about the film?
Yeah.
All right. Redford personally bought the rights to Woodward and Bernstein's book before it was published. He essentially willed the movie into existence. He and Dustin Hoffman rehearsed by overlapping lines and deliberately talking over each other to mimic real-life reporters. The Washington Post was hesitant to allow filming in their newsroom, so Redford paid for an exact replica set down to the trash cans. Classic film here. For me, it kind of helped with the whole legend of Deep Throat.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was one of those figures in the whole Watergate story that, for the longest time, people didn't know who it was. There was speculation on who it was, but, the film did a lot to, make it seem as like an intense moment in American history, as I'm sure it was.
Yeah, I mean, I often think of that and other times in our history when things really fell apart and, marveled that our country still exists.
Yeah, cross fingers on that one. But I felt it was definitely one of the best movies of the 70s, let's put it that way. And I think the fact that you got to think this movie being released in 76, just before the election, it was, Nixon had resigned on August 8th, 1974. So you're talking about close to 2 years of not having to deal with that nonsense anymore. And like, look how the American public was willed into a sense of stupidity, between 2022 and 2024.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of the same situation at that time. They were forgetting the past, and the role of an artist at times is to keep pounding away in certain ideas. And I think in this particular case, it was the importance of holding people in political leadership, holding their feet to the fire to make sure they are doing the right thing. And if they are not, they need to be called out and held accountable for their actions.
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
That would be nice, but I think what this movie showed, and what the history of, as we learned in that showed, is that, there were a lot of people in power that were trying to make that go away, but they fought and they fought and they fought. And ultimately, their work did do some good in that case. Hopefully, we can have some, brave reporters in 2025 or 2026.
I'm sure, I'm absolutely positive we do.
Yeah. Well, how about we dive into another one of his political movies?
All right.
Yeah, one I don't believe you've seen. I've not seen it myself, but I do know somewhat about it. But we're not going to be talking too long about this. The Candidate.
Right, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, the tagline for that film: Bill McKay is a candidate for the U.S. Senate from California. He has no hope of winning, so he is willing to tweak the establishment. Sounds
entertaining.
Yeah.
I'll give it a try.
Yeah. The film's tagline, "Too handsome to lose, too inexperienced to win," was inspired by Redford himself. He was worried people wouldn't buy him as an underdog. Director Michael Ritchie encouraged improvisation. Redford improvised many of the campaign speeches. After the film, real politicians used "What do we do now?" the movie's cynical closing line in campaign war rooms. If anything, I mean, my understanding is that this is definitely a movie that is a movie of its time, but if you work in politics, whether you're a bureaucrat or something like that, you're watching a movie in the 70s and you're seeing a lot of parallels between what they did in that movie then in terms of the machinations of a political campaign, because that's essentially what the movie is. One of the first movies that kind of dealt with that topic.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that work in politics, like your behind the scenes people, it's not just one guy, in politics. So
I think for me, the movie that exposed that for me was the James Carville, the War Room documentary.
D.A. Pennebecker. Didn't he make that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that. Great movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Great movie. Fictional one. I mean, I would still recommend Wag the Dog, even though the book is much better.
Wag the Dog is great.
Yeah. But yeah, so in terms of this film, can't really speak on it if I haven't seen it, but I at least know enough of the history to know that this, if you're a political geek, you're really going to love this movie. How about we go on to a film that I know you've been looking forward to talking about.
Yes,
The Baldwin family movie, Jeremiah Johnson.
that's right. If you haven't seen it, you should see it immediately. It's nice to watch in the winter during a snowstorm because it's the story of a mountain man in the Rockies and all of his trials and tribulations as he tries to survive the wilderness. It snows there a lot, so there's a lot of the movie is very white snow.
Yeah, and right now I'm doing an impersonation of the meme that comes from that movie, or the GIF, or whatever they call it. The moving picture that you can send in, messages or on social media, and that's him with the big bushy beard just nodding his head.
That was like a nod that he gave to
Another character.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so he has to learn how to do all kinds of things like catch beavers and kill grizzly bears, and the music is amazing. The sets and like the wilderness that they were filming in, absolutely gorgeous. Probably was Utah, who knows.
You are correct. Go over a couple bits of trivia here. The filming took place in brutal Utah winters. Redford's beard actually froze during some takes. Redford did much of the horse riding and outdoor survival himself. He even learned basic trapping techniques. And a cabin used in the film still stands on Redford's Sundance property today.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Yeah, the tagline of the film, a mountain man who wishes to live the life of a hermit becomes the unwilling object of a long vendetta by the Crow tribe and proves to be a match for their warriors in single combat on the early frontier.
Yeah, so I mean it's a very interesting story. But the thing I love about the movie is really the beauty of it and the atmosphere of it. The silence, like how it involves like many of your senses in telling the story.
And I believe I told you the other day, but I'm sure you probably forgot, and so I'll tell you again. The co-writer of that movie was John Milius, the guy who ended up writing and directing the first Conan the Barbarian movie.
Oh wow!
Wrote and I believe he directed the original Red Dawn with Patrick Swayze. Was the writer for a little film from Francis Ford Coppola called Apocalypse Now. He was supposed to do that with his college friend, one Mr. George Lucas, but George had other things going on in the late 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. So, have I seen that movie myself? I have not, but definitely have a lot of respect for the work of John Milius. Even though, speaking of John Milius, there is a movie character in film history that is inspired by John Milius. I'm sure you've seen The Big Lebowski.
Like once.
But do you remember enough of John Goodman's character?
Yeah.
That was inspired by John Milius.
I see.
So John Goodman's behavior in that film is comparable, the Coen brothers are saying, to what John Milius was like in real life. And I've seen enough interviews with John Milius that I think John Milius would have a laugh about that. So this is not anything that they were doing to insult him or anything, but he's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little intense at times, but anyway. Any other thoughts on Jeremiah Johnson?
Just watch it. Everybody should watch it. It's really good.
And not just Robert Redford nodding.
It's not. That's not all. The first half of the movie, though, I think there are 5 words spoken.
Well, that is another thing to really commend him for too, because there are times that some actors think the best way to showcase their work is by saying as many words as possible. Whereas, especially in film, being that it is a visual medium, a lot of times you can get the same message across without saying anything. I remember have you ever watched the Paul Newman movie, The Color of Money?
No.
It's a sequel to a film he did in the 60s called The Hustler. The Color of Money was directed by Martin Scorsese, released in the late 80s, co-starred Tom Cruise. And there was a scene where Cruise was like being a cocky young guy. And then all Paul Newman did was like turn to him real quick and then put his finger in his face. Didn't say anything, but the way he was looking at him, it was like, STFU, but that's all that needed to be done. And I think, Robert Redford, being a contemporary of Paul Newman and a friend of his, would definitely agree that if you can show something on film without having to say it, you're doing what's best for film, because again, it is a visual medium. How about we go on to the next one?
Sounds good.
All right. This one is one I have not seen, but know the reputation of. I believe this is one you have not seen either, but you could prove me wrong here. 3 Days of the Condor.
Nope.
All right, the tagline: a bookish CIA researcher in Manhattan finds all his co-workers dead and must outwit those responsible until he figures out who he can really trust. I have not seen this movie myself, so can't comment on that. But what I do know about this film is that, one, it did kind of really capture the mood of what the early to mid 70s was like, thanks to Watergate on film. So it did really good there. Also, it brought a more realistic aspect to spy thrillers compared to in the past, because before that, people were expecting, when you said spy thriller, they were expecting something like a Bond film.
Right.
And this made it more realistic here. But a couple of bits of trivia: Redford pushed to modernize the script, adding political paranoia elements to make it resonate with Watergate-era audiences. He insisted on keeping his character flawed. Joe Turner isn't a super spy. He's a bookish researcher suddenly hunted. Redford and Faye Dunaway's love scene was criticized for being cold, but Redford defended it, saying two traumatized people wouldn't exactly be tender. It's kind of good that he did that. I mean, that argument about that love scene in question, if you think about it, kind of progressive in a way. It was, yeah, positive way of, thinking about it. People needed to express themselves physically. They were in the moment, but with all the stuff happening in that movie, they weren't exactly like, come here and embrace my bosom or something like that.
Right. There was no romance.
Yeah. It was just getting down.
Mhm.
But anyway, 3 Days of the Condor, probably one I should check out, because it is one of those films that kind of laid the groundwork for stuff I do like. Yeah. Anyway, the next film here is the film that I was referring to earlier when we started this whole shindig. One of the first films that I ever saw of Robert Redford, The Natural. The tagline for that is: a middle-aged unknown comes seemingly out of nowhere to become a legendary baseball player with almost supernatural talent. Some of the bits of trivia here. Redford was 47 at the time. It was released in 84, filmed in 83. He was playing a character in his 30s. He trained extensively to make his baseball swing look authentic. He hit several of the home runs himself during filming, including some balls that actually cleared the outfield wall. The bat Wonder Boy was modeled after Babe Ruth's preferred design. Redford kept a replica as a memento. Now, the ending where he hits the home run, it smashes into the lights, and you get light spray everywhere. Classic movie moment. I think with the first bit of trivia here, it did kind of touch upon what didn't sit well with me as a kid, because, he was 47 in the 80s. When you're a 47-year-old in the 80s, you looked a lot older than a 47-year-old today looks like generally.
Really?
I felt he looked a little older. Now, having said that, I'm not trying to imply that he still wasn't Robert Redford, strapping man, but he did look 47. He did not look in his mid 30s. And me watching this movie in 1984, I couldn't have articulated that necessarily, but it still felt wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, why is that guy who looks like a grandpa,
playing this spy?
No, the baseball player.
The baseball player.
Yeah. Who's a spy?
The baseball spy.
Yeah, that's
it's like
a sequel.
Spy Kids.
That's a sequel, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What would you call that?
I don't know. I mean, when we're done recording at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'll probably come up with a great title and, whole storyline, the baseball spy,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
baseball spy.
something
The
like
baseball itself is like a secret camera.
Yeah. Anyway, you've seen The Natural, haven't you?
I definitely have seen The Natural.
Thoughts?
It was good. It's very American, all American.
But there's nothing wrong with that. There are positive things about this country, of things that have started in this country that I think people should be proud of. You can be proud in a positive way, without it clouding your eyes as to what is about your government. I mean, I do agree that a lot of history, especially today, is being used as propaganda to kind of get people into thinking a certain way. But again, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with being proud of some aspects of your culture where you were born. Yeah, so for me, with The Natural, it's been years actually since I've seen it. I think I've seen the Simpsons parody more than I've seen that, because that's the one where Mr. Burns gets all of the regular baseball players to work on the plant softball team.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and Homer even names the bat Wonder Boy or Wonder Bat or something like that. Wonder Boy. Yeah, but how about we dive into the next one here? This is another film that I think I can add to my initial discovery about him, because it came out the next year in 1985, Out of Africa.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this one is in a tie with Jeremiah Johnson as my favorite Robert Redford movie. It's also Meryl Streep and Robert Redford, and a very steamy romance focused on colonial Africa in a Danish colony.
Yeah, the tagline: in 20th century colonial Kenya, a Danish baroness plantation owner has a passionate love affair with a free-spirited big game hunter.
Yep, Robert Redford.
Yeah.
She's married to someone else, though.
Ooh, cherry.
Yeah. So it's a forbidden love.
Yeah.
It's very understated. Like, they never say that they love each other. Do you know what I mean? Like,
It's longingly with their hands outstretched.
For decades. For decades, yeah.
Oh boy. Trivia here. Redford did not use a British accent for his character, Dennis Finch Hatton, though historically the man was British. Sidney Pollack defended the choice as more accessible. Redford nearly backed out because he didn't want to play just a romantic interest, but he trusted Pollack's direction, and Redford's lion hunting scenes were filmed with semi-tame lions. He was still reportedly nervous, saying he could see the trainer's hands shaking.
Right, because the trainers would have been nervous because their animals were like performing.
Yeah, and they're working with probably at the time one of the higher paid actors in Hollywood. And if something bad happened, they wouldn't necessarily be working again.
Yeah, no.
I'd be a tad nervous too, but at least it wasn't
like it. I don't think they were nervous that their lions were going to eat his head off. They were more nervous that, like, if the catastrophe of that, you know what I mean? Like, if it were to happen, as improbable as it could be.
Yeah, because a wild animal will do what a wild animal will do if it's in the mood.
Ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, a British romance story released in
Danish
romance story that came out in mid 1985 was not made for an audience of me. Like, I was still getting my fill of Gremlins and Ghostbusters at this time.
Yeah, no, obviously it was not made for you, but it was made for me, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think you should watch it now, though, as an adult.
Maybe we will. We'll play a game of Scrabble and see who wins.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on Africa, though?
Nope.
I mean, Sidney Pollack, who directed it, didn't he do Tootsie as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and also a couple of other of Robert Redford films that we've already talked about here. Sidney Pollack is definitely one of those directors that I believe he's passed. his is a name that isn't necessarily talked about as much today in terms of, film fans and whatnot. But, again, with something like Tootsie, his name will still always be there for people to find and discover his movies. So maybe this would be one that the Tim of today could sit back and enjoy. But Tim of 1985 was like, more gremlins, more gremlins.
I never saw Gremlins.
Well, maybe we should watch that at some point.
Maybe that could be the Scrabble
Yeah.
wager.
Gremlins versus Out of Africa.
Yeah, man.
All right. How about we got a couple more choices we're going to be talking about here? How about we talk about one of his 90s films?
Okay.
Indecent Proposal.
Okay. I've never seen that.
Yeah. The tagline: a billionaire offers $1 million to a young married couple for one night with the wife. Imagine how short this would be if the married couple were a polyamorous couple. Yeah. Can I?
Like, it just seems so far-fetched that someone would try to prostitute, solicit someone to have sex with them for that much money.
Well, the movie,
getting off on the fact that it was infidelity.
Yeah, the movie was directed by Adrian Lynn, who was the director, I believe, for Fatal Attraction.
Oh, uh-huh.
So, same type of film here. Bits of trivia. Redford originally turned the role down, worried it would make him seem predatory, but director Adrian Lynn convinced him to play the character as all charm. Redford clashed with producers over the ending. Redford pushed for ambiguity about whether Demi Moore's character would stay with him, and Redford insisted his billionaire be portrayed as philanthropic and sophisticated, not sleazy, a key reason he took the part at all. Good for Redford, I guess. I mean, this is one of those sleazy 90s movies,
Like Showgirl.
But better. I mean, Showgirls was awful, sorry.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
But, that's what I was sort of thinking, this sort of storyline.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the acting was horrid in that movie. The acting in this movie is good, but the story is still not good.
I mean, this is the type of story that, like in the 70s, you would find as the plot of paperback you would buy at the airport, to read on a flight or read on the beach or something like that.
Right.
This is not something that would necessarily happen in real life, but, I think it was the whole idea of, showing the young married couple having their struggles and how much $1 million could help them out. And then here comes this guy who just wants to bang the wife once.
Yeah. Like, it just doesn't even seem like an important question to me. Where is the moral dilemma there?
Like I said, if the married couple were a polyamorous couple, it would have been a very short movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, can I give you $1 million to sleep with your wife? Okay.
Sure.
But any other thoughts?
It's, assuming that she liked him.
Everything consensual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So it was,
All right. Well, how about we dive into the last film we're going to talk about Mr. Redford here?
Okay, let's do it.
A film I know maybe you have seen it. I can't speak for sure, but it is a Marvel movie. Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
I don't think so.
Okay. The tagline: as Steve Rogers struggles to embrace his role in the modern world, he teams up with a fellow Avenger and S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Black Widow to battle a new threat from history, an assassin known as the Winter Soldier. A couple bits of trivia here before we talk about the movie. Redford agreed to play the role largely because his grandchildren were Marvel fans. He wanted cool points.
Wow.
And I'm sure the paycheck helped too. It was his first appearance in a comic book movie, and he played against his usual heroic type as a villain. The name of his role was Alexander Pierce. And that is the thing, too, if I'm not mistaken, going back to the Indecent Proposal thing, like generally in his movies, he had it contractually to where he really couldn't, and he didn't want to be the villain, and he had it contractually set to where at the end his roles could generally be still viewed as good people, the characters he played. But being that this is a comic book movie, playing a villain in a comic book movie is not like playing the villain in a drama based on a real life story or something, or about a topic that affects everybody today.
Right.
It was, yeah, and finally, directors Joe and Anthony Russo admitted they patterned some of the film's 1970s conspiracy thriller tone specifically as an homage to Redford's 3 Days of the Condor.
Ah.
Yeah, so tying back.
It all comes full circle.
Full circle, baby. But I would say for the Marvel movies, this would be probably my number one as the best quality film from first to last. You know, I this was at an era to where they were experimenting a little bit, and what I liked about the experiment with the Winter Soldier is that they did give you that feel of a classic spy thriller. With everything that was happening in there with the Marvel pizzazz, you know, and Redford going out of his comfort zone to play something as superfluous as a comic book villain. Good for him. I mean, because he had publicly retired at one point, and this is one of the few roles he took after his retirement. So, I think I think he would be the first to agree that there are good book films and bad comic book films. But his involvement, I think, shows people that sometimes you just need some silly fun. You know, which I really appreciated that.
Yeah, because you like silly fun movies.
There is nothing wrong with silly fun movies at all. They can definitely. Sometimes people just need to escape the everyday humdrum life, and escapist films can definitely do that. I think it is important to balance stuff out, and you know, to not have all of that, because you know, if you're constantly getting excitement, then it takes more to excite you over time.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to, you know, use all your juice up.
That's right. But Robert Redford has quite the legacy. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
You know, one of those actors that even when he discussed political stuff, I felt did it in a way that even if you disagreed with him, you at least were cool with him saying his piece and weren't annoyed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think some people in America really revere Robert Redford. And, you know, if he says political things, those people are like, yeah, absolutely. Because Robert Redford said it.
And that is one of the benefits of being celebrity, that you do have that soapbox to be able to promote causes that you feel can help people. You know, history will be the ultimate judge on whether, you know, those causes are good or not, because I'm pointing the finger directly at that Jenny McCarthy, who, if you remember back in the early 2000s, was one of the first celebrities to open her mouth about how bad vaccines were because they gave her kid autism, which is not true at all.
Wow.
You know, so that was a snowball effect that led to, you know, RFK.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But as far as Mr. Redford goes, and enough of the tangents, Tim, but tying this back to Robert Redford, like even with his political stances, I think, again, people, if they're honestly looking at it, and, you know, they don't have to agree with it, but I think they still would respect his approach.
Very understated.
Exactly. Any other thoughts on Mr. Robert Redford?
No, not really.
All right. How about we wrap things up?
Sounds good.
All right. For the professor, each Monday we'll have something in this podcast space to entertain your ear holes. Until we meet again, we bid you adieu. Goodbye. Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy
on YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Goodbye, darling.